It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Cedar Crest head women's wrestling coach, Coach Alex Depew. How are you doing today?
Doing really well, Brandon. Appreciate you having me on.
Thank you. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in coaching in women's wrestling?
Yeah, I didn't really know that I wanted to do women's wrestling right away. It's coaching's always been a passion of mine. Wrestling certainly has been a passion of mine, and the opportunity presented itself. I have a very good relationship with the former athletic director, and he had reached out and presented the opportunity to me, and it was very appealing. So I was fortunate to be offered the position, and now we had a nice little season.
Of course, what was that like getting to compete collegiately in wrestling for you?
Competing at the collegiate level was definitely different. The wrestling part, really not as much. I was at first worried about the transition from high school to the collegiate level, but I didn't really feel that it was that big of a jump. My biggest issue was taking care of things off the mat, schooling, social life, and that's where I struggled. But the wrestling part, it was just business as usual.
How was that like, obviously, going to two different universities to compete in college wrestling during your collegiate time?
Yeah, so that was different. I wasn't really sure where I wanted to go to school to wrestle. I had opportunities to compete at Bloomsburg, Maryland, Kutztown, Millersville. Ultimately, I chose Kutztown. Kutztown's team in 2009, 2010 was definitely the best team I've ever been a part of. On our best day, every single starter in the lineup was a Pennsylvania State medalist. So that was a superstar team. Rob Fisher, Chris Belanca, fine coaches. It just really wasn't the right fit for what I was looking for in an experience. I ended up going to Millersville, which was completely different. I loved every second in Millersville. My coaching, Steve Borgia, him and I hit it off in 2010, worked out every single day. When Steve went to Franklin and Marshall, Biff Wallweiser came on board, and then me and Biff had a great relationship. So definitely there was some differences between Kutztown and Millersville, but I was thankful for competing at both of them.
How was that experience like, obviously, going through that transfer portal to go from Kutztown to Millerstown?
Yeah, it was different, right? I mean, there was a few schools that were looking at me at the time. Ultimately, I went with Millersville, which I think was the best choice for me, and that was just that was that.
During your time, what was that like, obviously getting to put on two different singlets?
It was cool. It was cool to represent, a university. Unfortunately for me, I never got the feeling that some of these bigger school kids do where, you feel like you're putting on your high school singlet again. When I was at Kutztown, I didn't really feel like I was representing anybody except, the maroon and gold that Kutztown has. I didn't feel that sense of community like I felt in high school. When I went to Millersville, I did feel that, and I just didn't make some of the right decisions off of the mat. So it is cool putting on a collegiate singlet, but you don't let it get to your head.
Of course, after your collegiate time, what was it like, obviously getting into coaching and first coaching on the high school level?
Yeah, I knew I wanted to get into coaching immediately. So I started coaching at my alma mater at the junior high level, and I've just slowly worked my way up. So it definitely it took work. I had to put in the time. I had to start at the bottom. My first year coaching in 2012, I was a volunteer junior high coach. So it's definitely been a long time in the making to get where I'm at now, but I'm very proud of the journey I've been on, and I'm very, grateful for the people I've met along the way.
First, in 2015, what was that like, obviously, as an assistant coach qualifying to go to the regionals in high school?
So for last year when we had a regional qualifier.
Mm-hmm.
So last year, Pleasant Valley, that was my first head coaching job, District 11 AAA school. We had James Syracuse qualify for the regional tournament. Ended up dislocating his kneecap at the regionals. was unable to qualify for the state tournament, but that was a great learning experience for me. I mean, I developed an incredible relationship with James. James is one of those kids, that you wish you had 10 of them on your team. You wish you could coach a kid like that. That's going to make you better as a coach. It's going to make his teammates better. And, I'm very thankful for that year I had with James Syracuse, and I certainly hope that when he's done with college, he's at Penn State right now, getting his engineering degree. I hope that he wants to get involved in coaching because he'll have a position right away.
Of course, what was that like going to Notre Dame Green Pond to become the head coach there?
So yeah, I was the head assistant coach at Notre Dame in 2014 or 2015, and that was a great experience. Notre Dame, has the, opportunities where they're a boundaryless school. Kids can transfer in, and we certainly had a solid foundation there. If you look now at what Notre Dame Green Pond's doing, they're winning state championships. So we were there in 2015. We had 4 state qualifiers in my first year coaching there, and had some really special kids.
What was that transition like, obviously going from the high school level of coaching to getting on the college level of coaching?
Yeah, it's been a smooth one, honestly. Certainly there's some nuance to it, but the wrestling doesn't change, right? The workouts stay the same, but I think the best thing is not having to deal with parents as much as you have to at the high school level. These are adults now. They're big boys, they're big girls, and they can figure things out.
How was it like, obviously, getting to come to Cedar Crest to become the head women's wrestling coach?
It's been awesome, man. I've been really fortunate. We've got 7 girls on the roster, in my first 8 months here, and we had a winning record in our first ever season. And, I coach some amazing kids. So I'm very thankful. I certainly think that we can build on things. Ellie Terranova this year, she was doing an awesome job before an injury happened. Adriana Diaz, Drayden Charman, these girls have really been putting the work in, and I'm very, very thankful to coach them, and I can't wait to see how they progress moving forward. Most of my team are freshmen, so we have a very long 3 years after this, and I can't wait for it.
Of course, how has that been like, obviously going from coaching men's wrestling to now coaching women's wrestling?
Yeah, it's been smooth. It's been really smooth. I think it's when you understand the sport and you understand making connections and connecting with kids, and even at the collegiate level, it's about relationships. It's about character building. It's about earning trust. And I think we've done that here, and that's what we focused on at the high school level as well. My head assistant, Austin Warman, we've been coaching together for years. He and I share the same philosophies, and he's somebody that I trust, and he knows what we bring to the table, and we're really happy with what we're building here.
As a head coach, what does a typical wrestling match look like for you versus obviously with your players?
So yeah, watching wrestling as a coach as opposed to competing, it's definitely different. In a good way. I love coaching, and I'm equally as nervous, if not more nervous, coaching than I was competing. But there still isn't anything like the nerves you feel competing in a wrestling match. The butterflies you get in your stomach. It's almost a little nausea before you step on that mat. It's not like football. It's not like basketball where you can kind of blend in with the crowd. For however long you're out there, everybody's eyes are on you. And that's a really special thing. And these girls this year who are all new to the sport, they got a taste of that. And I think some of them really getting addicted to it. So coaching is equally nerve-wracking, but in a different way. Because you develop such relationships, you're really proud of these kids, and seeing them out there, it's like you're lacing up all over again. So it's fun in both ways.
How's it been like, obviously, getting to coach some of these females that have never wrestled before, or maybe dabbled in a little bit of high school wrestling?
Yeah, it's been it's been a challenge. It's been a challenge, but it's been one that I welcome. I want to grow this sport. I want anybody that's interested in learning wrestling to come out and try it. It's a beautiful sport. It's an art form. And when these kids come out for the team, we're starting with a blank canvas. So the great thing about that is there's no bad habits, right? They don't know any better. The bad thing is that they don't know. So we get to lay that foundation. We get to teach them the proper techniques, We get to instill, the style of wrestling that we want to instill in them. And then hopefully it's just moving forward then.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you've started to build for the program?
Absolutely. Our culture, it's very simple. It's come to Cedar Crest. We want you to earn your degree. We want you to get that degree, become a successful human being, become a good person, and go on and do great things. Secondary to that is we want you to be an All-American. We want you to be a national champion. Coach Warman and I come here not to be average, not to be, bottom of the pack. We want to come over. We want to take over. We want to beat these big schools. And that might be wishful thinking. Maybe we're biting off a little more than we can chew, but it would be a disservice for us to come in and just want mediocrity. So yeah, we do expect quite a bit from our wrestlers, but our wrestlers know that we might knock them down, but we're gonna be the first ones to pick them back up. And these girls have grinded it out. They put the time in and they're hungry for another season. So, we're really excited for what we're building. We're building a drama-free, gossip-free, very family-oriented wrestling program. And with that comes that trust. And now more kids on campus want on board, more recruits want on board because they see what we're building here.
Who are some of the teams that you face each week in your conference on a wrestling match day?
So yeah, this last past season, which just ended on Saturday, we wrestle East Stroudsburg, Ursinus, Alvernia, Lock Haven, Del Val, Jersey City, Elmira. So there's no shortage in powerhouse schools that we're wrestling. Certainly for our girls being new to the sport, we took some licks this year, but we also, dished some out too. As a first-year program going 5-4, I think that's something to be proud of.
Of course, what was that like, obviously getting to compete against teams like Lock Haven and East Stroudsburg?
It's tough. They are co-ed schools. They're bigger schools than we are. They get a better draw than we do. It's just simple as that. Facts are facts. But because we know that's how it is, we can't cry about it. We just we gotta strap up, we gotta lace up the shoes, and we gotta do it. We gotta work out, we gotta compete. We're obviously a few years from actually being truly competitive with those kind of schools, but that's not going to keep us from wrestling with them. We want to wrestle the best. We want to see what those coaches have to offer. We want to see what those girls have to offer, and we're going to learn from it and we're going to keep building with it.
Of course, as you talked about them both being co-ed schools, what has that been like, obviously seeing them as co-ed schools and also getting to see the men and learn from the men to help wrestle for the women?
Yeah, the co-ed schools draw, obviously is if they have a men's program, it's going to be easier to get girls in. That's how I would think it. We are an all-girls school, and I think we have a ton of great benefits from being an all-girls school. There's a lot of leadership opportunities, and that's what we're telling our recruits. They know that, and we're excited to get anybody that wants to compete for Cedar Crest College to get into this school and enroll, because we have a great academic standard and we're doing really special things in the wrestling mat. East Stroudsburg and Lock Haven, schools like that, they have established men's programs. So yeah, they are going to get maybe some blue chippers, but hey, I'll take a girl that wants to work and wants to get better any day of the week.
What does the recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes looking to compete in college wrestling?
Yeah, I can only speak for the way I recruit, and it's are you a good person? I don't care if you're a two-time state champion. If you're a jerk, I don't want you involved in my program. We're looking for good people. We're looking for good teammates, for good students, and that's how you can develop a positive culture. The bad thing is if you bring one bad apple in, it's like a cancer, it's going to spread. And the same way, if you bring in good kids with positive mindsets, who are motivated and driven, that kind of mindset mentality is going to spread too. And that's what we're doing. So we might not be getting the blue chip recruits. We're looking for those girls that we see, we see the forms there, we see the techniques there, and we can build on it. Those are the kids that I want.
As a head coach, what are some of the things that you look at when going on the road out recruiting?
I think, you look at a few things, and I know for us, we look at who their coaching staff is. We want to make sure that, the proper technique is being taught. We want to make sure that the school that they're wrestling for is coaching them for the right reasons, right? We want to make sure those schools, they want women's wrestling. They don't want to just be a number. They're happy about women's wrestling. They want to improve it. They want to grow it. And then obviously we're looking for, where are they on the scale of ability, and that's not to say that, if you're new to the sport, we don't want you, but it's how much are you willing to learn? How much are you willing to grow as a wrestler and a person? That's what we're really looking for. Obviously, everybody wants a state champion, right? Not everybody's going to get one. So I want to get those kids that might have just missed that mark because I know I can make them better.
What does the official visit look like for those prospective student athletes coming to Cedar Crest?
Yeah, for us, it's pretty simple. It's a laid back feel. You're going to come, you're going to talk with the admissions team. One of our students is going to give you a nice tour of our campus. You're going to see our facilities. You'll see our dining halls, our dormitories, and then you're going to sit down with me. I'm not going to just table touch you like some schools will do. We're going to sit down in my office. You're going to meet some of our team. You're going to meet my associate head coach, Austin Mormon, and we're going to have a real discussion using language. We're going to speak to each other. I want you to ask me questions. I want you to ask me hard questions. I want you to ask me what I can do for you. I think my resume as a coach is only building, it's only growing. I'm very proud of what we've accomplished. And I think the sky's the limit. And I think a lot of girls that are seeing what we're doing here are buying into that.
Of course, throughout your years, what has been some of your accomplishments for the program of Cedar Crest Women's Wrestling?
Well, yeah, it's easy for us being a brand new program, right? I got hired in May of 22. We started our program with 0 kids in October. So it was my job to get 7 girls on our team so we could be sponsored by the NCAA. We were. Some other schools can't say that. I'm very proud that we were able to. I had 7 girls on my roster. None of our girls quit. I had 7 girls on my roster. 6 of those girls placed at the state championships this year. We're 5-4. We had a winning record as a first-year team with 7 girls that have never wrestled in freestyle wrestling before. There's a lot of positives taken the season. I wouldn't trade any of these girls for anybody. I'll go to war with these girls, 10 out of 10 times. And I can't wait to continue to build what we're doing here at Cedar Crest.
Of course, with women's wrestling just now coming to Cedar Crest, what has been some of the challenges you faced and how did you overcome those challenges?
Challenge is just not being established, right? This is my baby. When I got hired in May, we didn't have uniforms, we didn't have wrestling shoes, we didn't have wrestling mats. I had to expedite all that. I had to get all that done. I'm very fortunate that I've got a great support system around me. I'm very fortunate with our new athletic director, Christy Flegel, being very supportive of our program, and we're getting that ball rolling. So we got 2 brand new mats. We have brand new wrestling singlets. We got the girls team issued Scrap Life shoes. The hardest part was getting the girls, getting girls to compete. And we got those now too. So the challenge being we had no program, that was non-existent here. Nobody at Cedar Crest really has an understanding of the sport of wrestling. So we came in here and, we're pushing, we're moving forward, and we're really developing a culture.
As a head coach, what is that feeling like, obviously seeing those girls put on that singlet for the first time as a freshman versus the last time as a senior?
Well, I think it's incredible. And I think it's incredible because of the situation we're in. These girls, they put that Cedar Crest singlet on. Cedar Crest has been around since 1867, and they're the first girls to ever don a Cedar Crest wrestling singlet. And in 4 years, the last time they put that singlet on, they said, hey, we helped build this. They are such a huge part of what we're doing. Probably bigger than the coaching staff, bigger than the administration. They're the girls, they're putting the work in. I'll be forever grateful for the first 7 girls I had here. And I don't want to think about them graduating just yet, but it'll be emotional when they do.
As a coach, what are some of the things that you've learned so far as a coach for women's wrestling?
I think patience. And understanding. When I coach boys, it is a bit more physical, only because I understand that side of the sport, right? I compete at the collegiate level. I compete at high level high school, and I know how I like being coached. Now, that doesn't mean I don't coach that way with girls too. I do, and I'm still a little rowdy. I'm still a little loud, in your face, and I think they like that. But it's also, you need to know when to tone it down a little bit. Everybody has different experiences. Everybody's got different things going on in their life, and we need to be understanding of that. And I think that we are.
What are some of your future plans for the sport of women's wrestling at Cedar?
Yeah, the future plan is to be a powerhouse. Again, we're not here, just to be bottom of the barrel, be a program. We want to beat teams. And I think other coaches know that, and I hope they do. When we come in there, you might beat us, but we're going to beat you up. We're going to rough you up. Your girls are going to walk off the mat saying, I don't want to wrestle another Cedar Crest kid because they're freaking mean, man. So we're mean and clean. We're going to be staying on your head. We're going to be scoring points. If we're up 8 points, we're going to get another takedown. We're going to try to pin you. And that's the style of wrestling that we teach. That's the style of wrestling that, I've grown to love. And that's the only style of wrestling these girls are going to know.
What advice would you give those high school athletes that are looking to compete in college women's wrestling?
Work. Women's wrestling's only getting bigger, right? And the number of talented high school athletes out there is growing and growing and growing. So there's not going to be as many opportunities for those, new to the sport kids to get college opportunities at the, wrestling, when as women's wrestling grows, you have so many more elite high level girls going to these schools. So if you want to start wrestling, I recommend girls start wrestling at 6, 7, 8 years old. Pick up the sport young, right? Continue to build, learn from it. And I think they'll be just fine.
What advice would you give those freshmen entering college wrestling for the first time?
Make sure that you manage your social life, your athletic life, and your academic life. That was the hardest thing for me. That's probably advice I wish I would have been given, is trying to manage all three of those. Study should come first. We need to make sure that we're here for the right reasons. The right reason is we're here to graduate college. All right. You want to make sure you're mentally healthy. You want to make sure you're surrounding yourself with good people. And then you want to make sure that you're doing everything you do on the wrestling mat. If you're making sure you're doing things the right way in the classroom, in the community, well, then you're going to be doing good things in the wrestling mat. So really just managing those three lifestyles and you'll be good to go.
What advice would you give those college wrestlers that are seniors that are looking to go to professional wrestling, whether it's WWE, AEW, or any particular professional wrestling?
Yeah, I don't know if I had much advice for that. I guess, market yourself, be a character, get exposure. Now with all the social media platforms, I think there's a lot better opportunities to do those kind of things, but I don't really understand that stuff much. So, just market yourself.
What advice would you give those people that are looking to represent a national team like Team USA or Canada?
I think have a backup plan. I don't mean to be dreary about it, but the Olympic level, the national team, that's the 1% of the 1% that gets to do that. So I'm not saying don't follow through with your dream, don't attack your dream. I absolutely think you should. I think you should go after it, but I also think you should have a backup plan. A lot of kids set those goals, and when they don't achieve them, they let them derail them. And I don't think that's how it should happen. If you don't achieve a goal, I don't think you should be, you should be failed. I don't think you should be miserable as long as, you put the work in. Making those world teams and national teams, for lack of a better word, it's really hard. So have a backup plan, obviously put the work in, follow through with your goals, but, make sure you've got something else lined up.
What advice would you give those future head coaches that are looking to get started in coaching in college women's wrestling?
Make sure you're doing it for the right reasons, right? Make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. It's not all, glamour. It's work. It's a lot of work, and you're going to take some beatings, and you're going to get beat up on, and you might have a weekend where all your girls lose or all your boys lose, and it's your job to pick them back up and go back to work. And it's also a lot of accountability and taking responsibility for what you're teaching and being accepting of change. And I think that's something I've come to understand as a coach is, I need to understand when I need to change things. I need to take fault for a lot of what goes on the mat. I can tweak workouts. I can shift things. 10 years ago, I might not have thought that. I might probably would have thought everything I do is right and that's what they should do. I don't think that anymore. I'm always watching videos. I'm always picking people's brains about how to be a better coach, and make my athletes better as well.
What advice would you give those people such as yourself that are starting a women's wrestling program from the ground up?
It takes work. It takes discipline. It takes patience. but it's very, very rewarding when you get things moving. I mean, when I got hired in May, we had 0 kids. I can talk about that until the cows come home. We had 0 girls, and I was very nervous about if I made the right choice or not. And now we've got 7. We've got a bunch of potential recruits coming in, and we're really excited for the future. So if you're willing to put in the time, if you're willing to put the program first, good things are going to happen.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you on social media along with the Cedar Crest Women's Wrestling Program out?
They can find us on Twitter and Instagram, CC Falcon Wrestle. Follow us, like us, send us a message.
Thank you again, Coach Alex Depew, for your interview, and best of luck in your future at Cedar Crest for the head women's wrestling.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Alex, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you, my friend.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.